If they keep up these lies about India and Kashmir, and if they continue to support these radicals in their party, Indian Americans is another group that they're going to lose. And look, if the Democrats want to keep alienating voters and lose again to a reality TV show host, be my f***ing guest. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sharma show. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you, and welcome to another hotel room exclusive episode just for you. So the US House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on South Asia human rights basically turned into an elaborate exercise of genocide denial and taking away blame from the real culprits. And Ilhan Omar was at the forefront of this nonsense hearing. I'm here to chew bubble gum and deny genocide, and I'm all out of bubble gum. See, we've seen both Bernie and Ilhan Omar make very ill-informed and frankly dishonest remarks about the situation in Kashmir. Bernie came out and said that hundreds of people were dying in hospitals in Kashmir when that was not the truth. Now, this hearing will not have any effect on India whatsoever. People are going to shout and scream. Mainstream media outlets in America will write tons of articles about it, and SJWs in India are going to scream about it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to have any bearing on Indian policy. However, it is important to talk about this hearing because you get to really know the Democratic Party, the politicians of the Democratic Party, what these politicians are trying to do, and who these politicians are in bed with. We've seen a pattern with the Democratic Party over the past few years that they've been heavily leaning into their worst, most radical politicians and activists. You know, you have people like Linda Sarsour, you have people like Rashida Tlaib, you have people like Ilhan Omar, who are all great friends of the great progressive hero of the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders. And this kind of rhetoric that we've been seeing on Kashmir and on India from the Democratic Party over the past few months even led India to hit back, which is why Modi attended the Howdy Modi event with Trump and even gave like a soft endorsement to him. So the theme of the Democratic Party over the last few years is, let's see how many voters we can alienate. Another big hero of the Democratic Party and one of the worst political candidates of recent memory, Hillary Clinton, was already out and smearing a war veteran and an elected congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard, as a Russian agent. Oh no, it's going to be fine. These kind of smears are not going to alienate anyone, right? And now the Democratic Party is organizing this nonsense hearing where they've invited a bunch of people to give their opinions and give their reports about Kashmir. And on the panel that they've invited, only one person, only one witness on the panel has actually been to Kashmir since Article 370 was made inoperable and actually looked at the situation on the ground. And none of the congresspersons who were there conducting the hearing asked her about what she witnessed and what the situation on the ground was. So first you had people like Angana Chatterjee. Angana Chatterjee is a former professor at the California Institute of Integral Sciences who was allegedly fired for unethical, dishonest conduct, even including intimidation and abuse of students. Angana Chatterjee also espouses anti-American views and is part of the fringe 9/11 truth movement where they allege that the US government was behind 9/11. She also has a close association with Ghulam Nabi Fai, who is a Kashmiri separatist who was arrested by the FBI and convicted for illegally lobbying for the ISI, which is the Pakistani intelligence agency. These are the kind of people that were invited to this hearing. It's like holding a trial for a murderer and inviting the murderer's biggest fans to be the jury in the hearing. She said, ultra-nationalist groups are seeking to weaponize and militarize society through organization, vigilance, and a capacity for violence. Okay, and what's the proof? She didn't really provide any proof. The data that these people and lots of other mainstream media organizations have been quoting has been widely debunked. It's been so widely debunked that the organizations that had created this hate crime watch recently shut it down for bad methodology and bad data. Why didn't any congressperson cross-examine them about this? Why didn't they ask the right questions? Another person on the panel was Nitasha Kaul, who teaches study of democracy in the UK. She called India contested territory. This is an old talking point of Pakistan. India is not a contested territory. As per the instrument of accession, the same instrument of accession that was signed by 500 plus other princely states in India to either join India or Pakistan, Kashmir acceded to India. So legally, for all intents and purposes, it is part of India. If Jammu and Kashmir is contested territory, then basically any state in India or Pakistan can be declared contested territory as well. Natasha Kaul also called India's step to remove Article 370 undemocratic without really explaining why. The government has used the means provided within the constitution to make Article 370 inoperable. She talked about how people have suffered under this lockdown for the past month and a half because they don't have internet connections, but she forgot somehow to mention the millions of people that have suffered and been disenfranchised under Article 370 and under radical terrorism promoted by Pakistan in Jammu and Kashmir for the past few decades. Natasha Kaul also says, during the beginning of armed uprising against the Indian state following on from the widely reported electoral riggings in 1987, the mass migration of Kashmiri Pandits occurred. Mass migration. Really? The murder of thousands of Kashmiri Hindus and the ethnic cleansing of 400,000 Hindus from the Kashmir Valley was a mass migration? Was the Holocaust a mass migration? Was the Armenian genocide a mass migration? Again, why didn't any congressperson cross-examine her about this? Why didn't they ask her why this was not ethnic cleansing of Hindus in the Kashmir Valley? Did they just not do their homework, or was there an agenda at play here? Then thankfully there were also people like Fatima Gul present at the panel, who is a Sindhi American human rights activist who really showed the mirror to the panel on what Pakistan has been doing in its neighborhood. She talked about the litany of crimes of the state of Pakistan along with the legal and religious discrimination that the state of Pakistan has carried out against Hindus, against the Sikhs, against the Hazaras, against the Ahmadiyas, against the Sindhis and many other communities. Horrible things like forced conversions and blasphemy murders, not to mention the terrorism that they have supported in Jammu and Kashmir, which has taken thousands of innocent lives. But again, for some reason, all the Democrats seem to be obsessed with and interested in is that the people of Jammu and Kashmir do not have Wi-Fi. I mean, the Democrats really have their priorities sorted out. There was also Ravi Batra, who is an American businessman and a philanthropist, and he deserves a special mention for the arguments that he put forth for the case of Jammu and Kashmir. He talked about how terrorists thrive in Pakistan and how they are a threat to Pakistanis, Indians, the Afghani people, as well as US service members that are serving in Afghanistan and Indian soldiers. He also mentioned a very important point about the instrument of accession and why India is not contested territory. This is what he said.
And Lord Mountbatten and his erstwhile Major Brown played fast, loose, and dirty. I wrote an op-ed that was published in various papers entitled, quote, Kashmir, Heaven on Earth, only if you remember Louisiana and Alaska, end quote. To save time, I incorporate it here and by reference and attach it here too in my statement. A simple point worth making, Kashmir was attached to India by a legal decree signed by its then Hindu ruler Maharaja Hari Singh several months after the needlessly bloody partition when tens of millions were killed. Like our acquisition of Louisiana from Napoleon and Alaska from the Tsar of Russia. No then resident of Louisiana or Alaska could force us, the United States, to hold an election so the residents could become an independent state. Their choice was to love us or leave us. Same applied to India in 1947 and to date.
And this is a very good point that he made as well. This is a very important point. He also mentioned how the curfew and the lockdown that the Modi government imposed was to make sure that the terrorists could not communicate with each other and could not cause bloodshed in the state, because the entire livelihood of the separatists and of the terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir relies upon this special status, relies upon Article 370. So they were not going to take the removal of Article 370 lying down. Then came Aarti Tikku Singh, who also talked about how Pakistan has fomented and supported terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, how they have radicalized Kashmiri Muslims, and how that has led to Kashmiri Muslims pushing out their own brothers and sisters, the Kashmiri Hindu brothers and sisters, out of the Kashmir Valley, out of their homeland that they've lived in for thousands of years. She also spoke about that the Kashmiri Muslims that do not buy into this separatist agenda, that want peace, that want progress, have been murdered by the terrorists, people like Shujat Bukhari.
So let me tell you who the victim and the perpetrator of human rights abuse in Kashmir is. The victim is my friend, my Kashmiri Muslim friend, Shujat Bukhari. Shujat was a senior journalist and a peace activist who believed in resolving Kashmir through dialogue between India and Pakistan. On June 14, 2018, he was shot dead. Who shot dead Shujat Bukhari? Lashkar-e-Taiba. the same terror group that has been banned by the US, the same terror group that perpetrated Mumbai terror attacks.
And again, remember, she was the only person on the panel who had actually been to Kashmir and reported from the ground, and nobody cared to ask her what the situation on the ground really was. That's really suspicious if you really think about it. This is also a person who Ilhan Omar called a puppet or a mouthpiece of the Modi government.
Missing as a reporter's job is to find the objective truth about what's happening and report it to the public. You have an enormous audience at the Times of India, and you have an enormous responsibility to get it right. I'm aware of how the narrative shaped by reporting can distort the truth. I'm also very aware of how it could be limited to sharing only the official side of the story. The press at its worst when it is a mouthpiece for a government.
How does she know that? Does she have any proof? Aarti has on numerous occasions spoken out against the Modi government. She said stuff against Modi that I completely disagree with. She said stuff like the Hindu right wing is crushing dissent in Indian universities. She's also said stuff like Hindu terrorists have begun to thrive in India. If you deny this, you are part of the problem. Again, these things that she said about quote unquote Hindu terror are not true. She has also made asinine statements like this. Hello, this is the 21st century. Instead of Ram Mandir and Babri Masjid, make a world-class astronomy, physics, or science institute in Ayodhya. This is an asinine statement and a nonsense argument, and it completely disregards the sacredness and the importance that Ram Janmabhoomi has in the heart of the Indian civilization. See, what I'm trying to say with this is that Aarti Tikku may be a lot of things, but she is definitely not a mouthpiece or a puppet of the Modi government. She has spent most of her career speaking out against Modi and the BJP. But despite that, Omar called her a mouthpiece of the Modi government. She did not let her respond. She cut her off every time, and Omar kept repeating leftist Pakistani talking points. And she kept going back to those nutcases, Angana Chatterjee and Nitasha Kaul, rather than let Aarti finish her points. Again, this is not surprising to see this from Ilhan Omar. She has allegedly also accused some Jews in America of having dual loyalties, which is a favorite far-right anti-Semitic talking point. She's also openly supportive of radical Islamists like Linda Sarsour. She's also openly supportive of radical Islamists in CARE, which is Council for American Islamic Relations, and there are some real radicals within that organization that Ilhan Omar has no problem supporting. People like CARE LA's executive director Hussam Ayloush, who has been openly asserting a moral equivalence between ISIS and Israel. She openly associates with Imam Siraj Wahaj, who calls for promotion of Islamic law, violent jihad, and calls to anti-gay violence. She has also partnered with Miftah, which is an anti-Semitic radical Islamist organization that celebrates suicide bombers. Miftah described female suicide bomber Wafa Idris as the beginning of a string of Palestinian women dedicated to sacrificing their lives for the cause. It singles out for recognition Hanadi Jaradat, a woman who blew herself up in a restaurant, killing 21 people, including 4 children. So when a person openly supports these Islamist bigots, you can at least safely assume that she agrees with some of the points that these bigots are making. Otherwise, she would not associate herself with these people. So to see her rhetoric and lies on Kashmir is not a surprise. These kinds of lies and propaganda on Kashmir is an old Islamist talking point. Again, this all comes back to the recurring theme for the Democrats over the past few years, that they've become very good at alienating voters. They alienated a lot of moderate voters in 2016 by deliberately screwing Bernie. They alienated a lot of moderate voters by openly supporting radical candidates like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who seem to really genuinely dislike America. Now they seem to be hell-bent on alienating Indian Americans. Remember, 80% of Indian Americans still vote Democrat, but a lot of Indian Americans were very upset and very angry at the propaganda and the lies that the Democrats are perpetrating on Kashmir. Of course they do not like their country of origin being falsely smeared like this. The Republicans have already made the move to capture the Indian American vote. They know the vote is there for the taking. If they keep up these lies about India and Kashmir, and if they continue to support these radicals in their party, Indian Americans is another group that they're going to lose. And look, if the Democrats want to keep alienating voters and lose again to a reality TV show host, be my guest. And I want to ask you as well, what do you think of the Democrats' opinions about India and Kashmir and the coverage of India and Kashmir in the United States? Do you think it's been fair or do you think it's been biased? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like today's episode, please make sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up. It helps me out. It helps the show out a great deal. If you like the Sham Sharma show and if you'd like to support the Sham Sharma show, make sure to click the Patreon button down below. Become a patron of the show. You get access to a lot of polls, a lot of exclusive content. You also get to ask questions to all the guests that I have on my show. On top of that, you also get access to the Patreon, Discord, and WhatsApp servers where we can talk directly with each other. So go ahead and support there. If you like the Sham Sharma show and if you have not subscribed already, what are you doing? Click the subscribe button down below and make sure to subscribe. Press the bell icon to make sure you're updated whenever a new video drops, and make sure to check out the other videos that we have floating around over here as well. I'm sure you'll enjoy them too. I will see you for the next episode, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.